Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of the Girls in Movement podcast. Our guest today is a founder of a company called Premier Property and has a wealth of knowledge and experience within the property industry. I've read that this individual was financially free at 23, which for me is mind-blowing, and I would love to find out more about that. But I personally want to know more about not only building Premier Property, but more around the mentoring he's had and the mentoring he provides. So without further ado, I welcome Kam Dovedi. How are you, Kam?
Hi, Polly. That's a very nice introduction. Thank you very much for that.
No worries. So, Kam, my first question to you would be, where did it all start? Did you always know you wanted to work in property, or was it something else?
Well, when I started at the age of 18, but there was a sequence of events that led up to that. I was brought up by my grandmother. So I mentioned that because she was the most inspiring person. She's not with me anymore, but she was the most inspiring person in my life. And I've dedicated my book to her. So if you can imagine a 23-year-old lady, olive color skin, beautiful brown eyes. Imagine her then with two children, one child of 4 years old and one not born yet, which was my mum. So she was 6 months pregnant with my mum when her husband died at the age of 23. Now imagine that woman back in 1943.
Yeah.
Then imagine her from a city into a rural background where, if you're like me, you know that everybody knows everyone's business. And then imagine that woman in 1943 in a rural environment in the north of Punjab. So that was my nan. And, we're talking about mentors and inspiring. And like I say, she was the most inspiring woman to me because every time, I'd come home, she looked after me. And every time I'd come home and I'd say, oh, there's this challenge or there's this problem or this happened or the viewing didn't go right. And then she'd tell me one of her challenges, her problems.
Yeah.
And, situations like where, she had a choice of feeding herself, her son or her daughter, but she only had enough for one person.
Yeah.
And straight away, that's so inspiring because you think, well, I haven't really got a challenge. Actually, we're pretty good. So yeah, it's just really, these types of inspiring people in my life, my nan, like I say, really help to build resilience over a little bit of time. So things to think about, right?
Yeah.
That resilience.
Perfect.
So I started at the age of 18. Yeah.
So did you start Premier Property at kind of the age of 18? And how did it start? Was it you on your own, or did you have a small team around you?
Well, keeping it honest with you, having an honest conversation, at the time I was actually studying and I didn't really have a proper job. I've never really had a proper job. And I was dabbling in property. I didn't really have like we have now, we have systems and processes and procedures and, we have some really good hacks on how you can really move forward and make things work, even where people think that they can't make them work. But I've learned this over time. And, I dabbled, like I say, in property at the age of 18. And that's how it really started. There wasn't a conscious thought, there wasn't a tactical plan or anything like that.
Sure.
Keeping the conversation honest with you, one of the reasons I got into property was the fact that I saw my to-be wife, and I saw her. I was 23 years old. She was 20 years old, and at university. And I thought, this is the girl I'm going to marry.
Oh, I love it.
I don't know, if the guys listening are ever on a mission. If you're on a mission, I was on a mission. But the thing is, I had to prove to her brothers, the two brothers, of course, right, which is the right thing to do, that I was worthy of her. And I had to prove it to her father. So I thought, you know what, I haven't got a proper job. Why don't I start a business?
Yeah.
I'll be a businessman. So that was how it all actually started.
There's always a good reason. There's always love in there somewhere. So yeah, I love that. So was I suppose, like most businesses, it's not always smooth sailing. What would you say were the sort of challenges around Premier Property when you were first starting out, especially being so young as well?
Yeah, there was a lot of challenges. And the sort of key challenges were, first of all, I was actually too young. So first of all, there wasn't people that would believe that we can actually do this. So I remember actually going up to a first commercial property that I bought, and the owner of the property it was actually a shop, and I went in there, and being young and naive, which I actually learned naivety is quite good because it keeps you refreshed and it keeps your mind open.
Yeah.
I just went in there and I said, actually, I want to buy your property, and he looked at me and he said, why don't you just go home? So that was his answer. So I had to take my uncle with me to say, no, he is serious. He does want to buy this property. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of money. So, there was no silver spoon. It was a case of being creative and using your resources the best that you could to piece things together. And, that was one of the challenges. The other challenge was, we didn't have what we have right now. We didn't have people sharing really good information.
Yeah.
In the property world, let's be honest, people can be quite sharky. They keep things to themselves sometimes. Developers want to, quite rightly, they've got their own business and they don't want to share their IP.
No.
So it's quite refreshing, when you find people for whatever reason. Maybe it's just they want to inspire people, like you and me, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they want to just want to help people, right? Because they want to, because they can. I didn't have any of that. In fact, I was looking for mentors. I didn't even know what the word mentor meant. So I'm looking for somebody who's done what I'm doing, who's maybe 5 years, 10 years ahead, who's been through what we're doing. And so, so I remember going to North London to an accountant, and it's an Orthodox Jewish chap, really, really lovely chap. And he said, so you're looking for a mentor? I said, what's a mentor? Well, exactly what you're asking for. I said, oh, okay. And so, there was a number of challenges finding the information. I would say that was one of the key ones. But, people have this right now.
Yeah, of course. And how does so you're obviously working with kind of individuals kind of who need mentoring around, I suppose, whether they want to buy their first property or they want to get kind of become financially through property. So how does it work? Does someone just inquire and say, look, I want to work with Kam, I want to learn the trade, and what's that sort of journey that they go on?
Well, there's actually a 5-step process that people work through on their journey when it comes to getting to know you. And it's kind of an internal gauge. And I'm happy to share this with you. So people that are listening in right now, if you can think about this and this journey, people will go through naturally. So the first part of the journey is they're asking in their head, who are you? That's the first question. Obviously, we're polite. People are generally polite, and that's totally fine. So they're not going to probably say it to your face. But internally thinking, well, who actually are you? So that's where the journey starts. And you can actually gauge this. The second step then is that they are actually interested in you. So as you get to know them over a conversation, over 30 minutes or so, over an hour, they go, actually, you know what, you're very interesting.
Yeah.
And from that interest, the next step they go through to is the fact that they assess it and they say, well, actually, I believe you. I believe what you've got is really good. Now, once you've got to that belief phase, it then is about delivering whatever it is that you want to deliver. So if you're in business, whether it's a startup, whether that's IT, it's actually coming up with a plan that you want to implement. And if you're listening in, maybe you're quite young and you're learning right now. You're at school or you're at uni or wherever you are. I would say age doesn't really matter. Get on, you can get on with it. You absolutely can do this, and just deliver what you promise. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
Come up with a plan and make it happen. Once you deliver, then people go into the fourth phase which is I know you. And when people know you, at that point the gates open up, the doors are open. Everyone comes on in. The curtain moves out the way, and it's then the fifth phase, which is I trust you.
Yeah.
And if you think about this, people listening in, hope you find it very valuable. You will notice people going through this on a natural level internally. So you can gauge where you are with someone and what you need to do more, or how, which phase you're in, so that you can actually make sure that you have a business, that you're promoting the business at the right time and you're doing the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a really good kind of 5 steps to that process, but definitely that whole idea around trust, and not just a trust of a brand, because I think that applies to any sort of startup business outside of property in any industry, but also people buy off people in this day and age. I really think there is that whole element of if you trust someone and you trust their word, I suppose they do become that trusted advisor in every different element of their kind of career. So that could be, okay, I go to my accountant for one thing, but I actually get further advice from them because I trust them. So yeah, no, that's really useful. Do you have
For
any
sure.
do you have any sort of advice to, I mean, I'm from a generation where kind of buying a property is always seen to be like it's a real struggle and getting on the property ladder. But if there's anyone out there who's looking to buy a property and it's their first one, do you think the right time is now, or do you think there's ever a right time? Do you just need to go for it and put that deposit down? What would you say?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and this question I get that asked so many times, whether I'm training property investors in workshops and courses, or whether I'm mentoring property investors one-to-one. I've trained over 500 people one-to-one right now, and I've trained over 10,000 people. And the thing is, they go through this process, like we just mentioned. So when it's too early, I don't actually share anything with them because we're not here to fix people.
Yeah.
People have this illusion of, oh, it's okay for you. It was always okay for you. But they don't actually understand the adversities and all the things that people have been through to be successful in many cases. So it's not their fault, but they just don't have the right information. But when they move forward to the next step, when they're kind of interested, when they're actually interested in you. So, for example, people listening on this podcast, so people that are here right now listening in, I would say that it's absolutely 100% doable, and there's too much proof of this.
Yeah.
So one of the myths is that you need a lot of money to invest in property. Actually, you don't. There are strategies which are non-asset building strategies, which I train people on, and you can create a whole business with a little amount of money. There are strategies where if somebody knows you know what to do and you learn what to do, because no one's a fool. If you know what to do, you might not have done it yet, but if you can talk through the information, and the information is coming from a trusted source, then you can absolutely help people with funds as well. So they may have some funds, they don't know what to do, but you know what to do. So there's another avenue. Then there's asset building strategies where you can buy your first or your second or your 5 or your 10, and there's so much that you can do. In fact, what I love about property is the fact that it's actually it is evergreen. We have a system which we call the bar system. I won't go into that right now. We have a bar system where you can make your money evergreen, where you are continuously being able to fund projects. Wow. So it is a bit of it's a bit of a myth, but like I say, we're not going to fix people because no one is fixing. If they want to learn more, they're welcome to learn more.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's quite. And I mean, when was the kind of turning point for you to realize, this might be a personal question, but this is no longer about the money? Because personally, when I was younger, I was really money hungry, and don't get me wrong, I still am, but I had a point in my life where I thought, okay, I need to do something what I'm interested in and what I love. So, and then the rewards come after. Did you have a sort of turning point where you thought, okay, I would like to pass this knowledge on, or did you have that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So at the beginning, it was about when I was 18 when I started. Like I said, my nan brought me up, and my mum, she was working as a sewing mistress, and she'd work from 7 a.m. in the morning till 7 at night. Wow. Every single day of the week. She'd work in Packard Lane, and then she'd come home at 8 o'clock, and then she'd be sewing in her sewing machine, in one of these sewing machines where you got all this fluff flying everywhere, and she had to wear one of these masks. And and on a Sunday, what she would do is she would actually save up for her bus fare. So she'd walk to work, but then in the East End of London, and she would travel back by bus, and she'd save the money. Yeah. And then on Sunday, what she would do is she would take me to Petticoat Lane to one of my most favourite toy stores, and I think it was more freedom for her.
Yeah.
And she would say, you can have anything you want. I think for her, that was her freedom.
Yeah.
That was her way of thinking. So, to answer your question directly, it wasn't actually about the money.
Yeah.
The money was a vehicle to say to my mum that I'm proving to you that your sacrifices are worth it.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what it was for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Once we got to the stage where...
No, go on, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So once we got to the stage where I understood that wasn't really, she didn't really need any proof anyway, but we got to the stage. It then became more about, well, what can I do for other people? But that was a specific point in my life that there was a big turning on a specific day on 17th of February 2008 when everything changed, and I started thinking about money in a different way.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's really nice that you have that connection, kind of like with your parents and your grandparents. I mean, I was talking to my grandparents yesterday, and they kind of said we used to work to literally put food on the table, but they really are grateful that the kind of sacrifices, like you say, they made is allows us to kind of go into a career that we can enjoy. Not It's not just about the money. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there. It's really nice. So outside of
Yeah, and yeah. Mhm. I love really, people in the senior ages, people that are actually alive rather than, they're actually alive for the
yeah
70-year-olds. So I have mentees who are, in their ages of 70. We've got the people who are sort of 747, not pilots, but engineers and people like that in their 70s. And we've got a surveyor who's 77 years old. His name's Max. Yeah, people like that, they're actually alive.
yeah
And I love that resilience in people. So I think my point of view is that age is really a myth. It
yeah
doesn't really matter how young you are. It doesn't really matter how old you are. You can make this work if you want to.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more there. So outside of property, Cam, what are your interests? So you're an author, you're a speaker, you're a mentor. What do you enjoy doing?
What I enjoy doing. So I'm learning to fly the helicopter very badly
Oh
at the
wow.
moment. so, so that's the thing. You sort of push it forward, it goes backwards. You go backwards, and it goes forwards. And when you're up there in the air, your instructor says, "You do realize there's only one engine." Well, thank you very much. So it's a little bit of excitement. So I do things like that. I'm also learning to play golf. I can't play golf at the moment, but I'm learning to play it because I have so many friends that play golf.
Right.
And it's a real shame because there's some real connections, really good people, and the way we do business is very natural,
Yeah.
and it's about getting to know people. So these kind of fun times and sort of social events really help. So that's another one. So I'm not really that good at the golf, to be honest with you. I'm working on it. So my money's going to the golf pro, but working on that one. I do a little bit of training as well in the gym, but that again, the money mostly goes to my gym. I'm usually speaking or talking, or we have right now 8 different evening events all around the country
Wow.
in the UK. So we do some of that. I love inspiring people. I really enjoy that.
That's great.
I suppose that's why you would do this, really, because you don't really need to. And people ask the question, well, why are you doing it? Well, because I can.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I mean, you're in a great position where you can do that, and I have huge respect to people who want to take out their own time and kind of put on pause of that whole idea of making money and give back to other people so they can help them. So yeah, huge respect in terms of that. So in terms of, I know you mentioned kind of your family as sort of mentors and helping you get to a stage where you thought, okay, I want to kind of build my business, and also your wife. Do you have any key mentors outside of your family who kind of you lean on, not just now or maybe previously when you were starting? Are there any standout mentors for you, and why were they important?
Yeah, so there are stand-up mentors. Now these are usually very private people.
Yeah.
In the training world, there's mentors as well. So I've spent probably £250,000 on training courses and mentorships. But what
Wow.
I find with this is there's absolutely a return on investment.
Yeah.
So it's about getting started. It's just about getting started. Now, the thing with paid mentors, what I like about paid mentors is that you don't feel obliged to ask them a question. So you'll get people that help you, but sometimes you can get to the case where you think, should I ask him? Should I not ask her? Should I? Should I? And there's all that going on. So there's a bit of a sometimes it used to be like that. So when you pay someone, what I find is you're due that time. So
Yeah.
you're due the time that you've allocated they've allocated to you. So yeah, I've got a number of mentors. Like I say, they're private people. And what I tend to do with mentors is aim to the game that I play, and it is a fun game. It's befriending my mentors and actually seeing if we can actually surpass them where they are financially. So in a friendly manner, seeing that if we can take it up another level.
Yeah.
And as you do, what you find is that the doors open up even further. My next mentor that we're discussing about right now is Richard Branson. So that's my next mentor. But I've had a number of different mentors all the way through my life. Some, like I say, without realizing that they're mentors,
Yeah.
and some of them have been, strategically mentors in business and property.
Great. No, it's good to know, and I think it's I do like the whole idea around friendly competition with your mentors, but it definitely is a driver for you to kind of push your business even further. I feel like in this day and age, no matter what your startup or small business or big business, you can't just stand still and be satisfied with what you have. Like, you have to keep going and keep changing. And Richard Branson is kind of the god of that, I suppose. So yeah, he'd be a great mentor to have on board.
Yeah, so just people listening in, because this is about the people that are listening in, isn't it? So, if you're listening in, just think of somebody who's typically just that slightly ahead of you, or I would say like 2 to 5 years, 10 years ahead of you. So if I had Richard Branson as a mentor, let's say 20 years ago, or it wouldn't have been relevant at the time, because it would have been just that too big a step. And what people say they like about our Premier Property is that we're very humble, and I like to keep things very simple, whether somebody is absolutely new or whether they're very experienced and they have a large portfolio. So I suppose it's a little bit of a novelty that we can gauge where somebody is and assist them in that way, in the information that they require, in what they require. So just think about your mentors. Somebody that's just a couple of steps ahead of you, someone who can help you. So if you're at school, for example, if you're listening and you're at school, think of friends a year older than you. Think of that. Think of if you're in a work environment, a corporate environment. Think of people that you get on with, where you can maybe treat them to lunch or something, and they'll spend some time with you. And people usually openly share information, right? So if they've been in the company longer than you, that could be another mentor. And then, like I say, you can of course get strategically mentors that you'll pay for as well. But what we're always looking for is return on investment. That's the crucial part. There needs to be a return on investment with a mentor.
Definitely.
And there always really is.
Great advice there, Kam. So my final question to you, Kam, which I ask all my guests, and I love hearing their answers, kind of how they kind of come across this. But if you could give your younger self any advice, what would it be?
That's a very good question. I would say dream big.
Good.
And if the dream, the gauge of this dream is there should be a certain number of people laughing at it. If there aren't people laughing at it, it's not big enough. So I would say dream big. And then with that dreaming big, don't listen to the people that say you can't do it. And I used to think people with letters after the name, or people that were of a certain age or older than me, just because they spoke with a plum in the mouth, and they were lovely people.
Yeah.
I thought that they knew exactly what they were talking about. All they were doing was exactly what we were trying to, get by the best that they possibly can. And so I would say, absolutely, have dream big, but also with that, create a plan with it.
Yeah.
And when you create the plan with it, anybody who says no to you, you just carry on and make it happen.
Thank you so much, Kam, and thanks for your time on this podcast. A huge amount of kind of relevant feedback and ideas around mentoring to our listeners, which is really kind of the whole point of these podcasts. So thank you again. We will put all these podcasts, they're live on iTunes. We'll put it on Kam's social media and the Girls in Movement social. So please do access it. It's live on YouTube probably later today. But yeah, thank you again, Kam, for coming on to the show.
You're welcome, Polly, and thanks for listening in. See you soon. Speak to you soon.